Glad you could join us today on EdFile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. The question, will the United States withdraw from the Paris Agreement, has been a major talking point for some time now. The world without the United States efforts would have a far more difficult time avoiding a dangerous threshold, keeping the planet from warming more than 2 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. The world has already warmed just over half that amount, with about 1/5 of the past heat-trapping carbon dioxide emissions coming from the United States, usually from the burning of coal, oil, and gas. The German Chancellor said after the G7 summit that it would be tough to make the Paris Agreement successful. When the agreement was opened for signature in April 2016, Germany was one of the first countries to sign, and it became one of the first EU member states to start the official national ratification process in July 2016. But it has its own challenges as far as the Paris Agreement is concerned. I recently joined a group of journalists in Berlin, and our focus is how the country is working out its energy transition. So today, we open EdFile with our visit to one of its coal mines. Do stay with us.
On the left-hand side, you see the small building.
A group of journalists from 17 countries visiting a lignite mine in Yerchwalde, 15 kilometers from Karlsbad in Brandenburg State, southeast of Berlin. This visit is to highlight the difficulties many countries, including Germany, face in the quest to limit temperature rise to below 2 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels and to aim to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees.
Go towards the east.
Miles away, one can see the cloud of smoke below from massive chimneys of the Yerchwalde coal power plant. It supplies electricity and heat around the clock and under all weather conditions with a total capacity of 3,000 megawatts. Around 22 billion kilowatt hours are fed into the public grid annually. This is enough to supply more than 6 million households with electricity. At Yerchwalde power plant, electricity is generated from lignite, a raw material that is sourced from open cast mines, which is then transported to the power plant by train. Operating at full capacity, the power plant requires 82,000 tons of coal per day. About 136 villages have been swallowed by mines in this region. Here in this village, many have lost their homes over the years. The combustion of coal produces ash and dust. This, apart from the carbon dioxide emissions from the plant, is a source of worry for the inhabitants. Karl Hendrik, a pensioner, lives in Tobendorf, located on the edge of Brandenburg, directly on the border with Poland, and about 10 minutes drive from a coal mine. His village's wells can no longer provide drinking water.
We're
We're a small village of around about 120 people, and we are all waiting for the mining sites getting closer and closer. And by the year 2023, we expect to have the mining site just 200 meters away from our village. We are lucky today, it's sort of fairly quiet in here, but if the wind comes from a different direction, you can really hear all the noise coming from the mining site, all the excavators. Groundwater drainage does not only affect our drinking water, but also has a severe impact, especially on the older trees, like birch and oak trees. They cannot really reach to the groundwater table anymore, so a lot of those older trees already die or are already dead.
And he hopes there will be a social support to some of those affected by mining activities.
The Polish company would not really care about Taubendorf at all, so they would not get any compensation from the Polish company, but they do not have any rights to get any sort of compensation from the German company as well, because only those villages that are directly being affected through resettlement and destruction, they have the right to get some sort of compensation, but the village remaining at the rim of the mining sites do not have any rights. So they have to just live with it.
Bleibt im Prinzip nichts übrig.
few weeks ago, the European Commission passed a new law lowering the emission levels.
Sebastian Sepp, a social entrepreneur who guided the tour around the Realisation region, says the issue of coal mining in the region is tricky.
Well, I think the politicians are far behind the actual development going on already, because as you can see, the mining company here in Realisation already made their decision to not really expand the mining in the future. So they already realized that it's not economically viable to continue lignite mining here in Germany. And I can see that in Realisation more and more people become aware of the situation that lignite will not have a future. So what we're talking about is now how to find a just lignite phasing out process here in Realisation.
Germany has over 20 gigawatts of lignite-fired electric generating capacity. Operating as of the beginning of 2015, lignite, also called brown coal, has the highest carbon dioxide emissions per ton when burned, a third more than hard coal and 3 times as much as natural gas. It is Europe's most abundant and least expensive domestic fuel, especially when located close to power plants. Germany also uses hard coal, which generates about 18% of its electricity. Germany's coal-fired generation in 2015 declined by just 0.5%, and because its electricity demand remained essentially flat, the relatively inexpensive coal-fired power not needed domestically was exported mostly to Austria, the Netherlands, France and Switzerland. Germany's plan to reduce carbon dioxide emissions includes renewables replacing coal, as well as its nuclear power. But its coal-fired generating industry refuses to go away.
Well, I think we'll certainly face severe crisis in the future, because we only have limited resources, and if I look at the current ability of politicians to make decisions with really long-term effects, I have certainly doubts. So my hope is really more on civil society finding ways and supporting ideas that eventually will help us to find a future after fossil fuels.